Iman, do you think the mandamus, going through mandamus, is effective?
Absolutely. I think this type of application is one of the best tools that you can have for yourself or for your clients when the processing times get too long.
So speaking about time, many people get stuck in a backlog of Immigration Canada, which is right now around 2 million applications. We're going to talk about mandamus now. What is a mandamus?
That's a very good question. So absolutely, everybody that's waiting for the government of Canada is in similar boats where they're saying, hey, why is my file not being decided? I feel like 2 years for my tourist visa processing is a little too long. So we have a process by which we could force IRCC to make a decision on the file. This is called a mandamus, a writ of mandamus. This is an order that's given by the judge to the embassy to make a decision on a file in a certain period of time.
So now we know what is a mandamus. How do I know if I qualify to go through mandamus, use the writ of mandamus to expedite my file?
Very good question. Firstly, it would depend on the type of application that you have. Temporary residency files and permanent residency files are not necessarily subject to the same rules. The general rule is that if the processing time is unreasonably long. Now, what does that mean for temporary residencies?
Unreasonable?
Unreasonably long.
So what is unreasonable?
For temporary residencies, I would say any delay that's above 2.5 times what's mentioned on the website of IRCC in terms of processing delays opens the door for a writ of mandamus. For example, if currently the processing times for a tourist visa from Iran is 70 days, let's say, if your application has been pending for 160 days, 170, 80 days, then I think we can start looking at the facts and seeing if we can file a writ of mandamus. Permanent residency files is a lot different. The rules differ depending on the type of application you have, and it's not the same formula. We have to get the case-specific notes, see where the file's processing has been and where it's been stuck. A lot of times it's a security check that things get stuck on the PR side. And the test of that is, hey, if the security test has been taking 1.5 years, 2 years, then you could be subject to a writ of mandamus.
Okay, but there is no harm to apply for a writ of mandamus.
Oh, well, that's actually a really good point. There's no harm, and it's a 2-step process, actually. Before filing a writ of mandamus, you have to give a letter of demand to IRCC to say, hey, it's supposed to take 10 days to process my file. We're at day 70. You still haven't made a decision. Please make a decision within the next 20, 30 days. So you submit that, and it's only at the expiration of that delay that you could file at court. Very often we see cases where we submit that letter of demand and the file receives a decision within the 30 days that we had asked them to make the decision. This doesn't mean you're going to get accepted. This just means that the officer is going to make a decision, which could, if you've been waiting for a tourist visa for 2 years, 2.5 years, knowing your faith is better, even if it is a refusal. At least you can pick up the pieces, go to court, do something else instead of sitting here between, as we say, the ground and the air, not knowing what to do with your life.
So the writ of mandamus would be something that so many people want to do, but they're not sure if they need to hire a lawyer or they could do it on their own.
Any type of filing at the federal court, you need a lawyer. You absolutely need a lawyer.
Okay. So how much usually does that cost for a lawyer to apply? I've seen lawyers in Canada charging like $3,000 to $5,000 for a writ of mandamus, which is, I think, too much for an applicant who already has spent a lot of money on his application, right? So how much do you
look? Without venturing into what other lawyers charge, because their business model might be different, we again have come up with a strategy to provide universal access to individuals, to bring down the cost as much as possible by focusing on certain type of files that we know how to get results on. And our fees hover around the same as the judicial review. And what we usually do is we break our services down in two. So we'll have a fee for the letter of demand portion. Hey, if your file gets accepted or your decision is made purely out of a letter of demand, then you don't need to file the writ of mandamus. So we proceed with a two-part payment, and in the end, it costs clients approximately $1,500 to $2,000 for a full application
Okay,
from
that's
start
reasonable,
to end.
I think. So, as for writ of mandamus, many of my clients ask me if they use the writ of mandamus, they have the fear that maybe the government of Canada doesn't like it, and then they will go and reject their files.
This is an urban myth, urban legend, call it what you want. It's very normal, I would say, for people to have that kind of understanding, especially, you know, our clients come from countries where they are already afraid of their government. They are not convinced that the government acts in their favor.
Yeah.
So it's a very, like, I'm not gonna say reasonable thought, but it's a thought process we come
But it
towards
doesn't
all the
affect
time.
it, right?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. It should not. Now, whether or not on an individual case, one officer might act in that way, there's a possibility, but institutionally, that's not a problem.
Iman, do you think the mandamus, going through mandamus, is effective?
Oh, absolutely. I think that this type of application is one of the best tools that you can have for yourself or for your clients when the processing times get too long. However, I would say this is the type of application that IRCC and Justice Canada lawyers always fight back on. So we rarely submit our memorandum of arguments and get a settlement after that. So that's one thing that you have to understand. IRCC as an administrative body has no choice but to delay certain applications because of the sheer number of files that are there. So IRCC has this playing ground where they're delaying processing times, not on purpose, but because that's what they have to do. And they don't want the courts to issue too many writs of mandamuses against them, because then it'll create jurisprudence, it'll create a lot of precedents. And so that's what I'd say. It's a very effective process if your application is eligible for it. If it's not eligible for it, you're gonna get the fight of your life from IRCC and you'll probably lose.
So Iman, how can you help people who have been stuck with IRCC for the processing time so they don't get a result? What can you do for them? What are your services?
The writ of mandamus is the way for you to go. We start out by doing an access to information application to get your GCMS notes, GCMS, the Global Case Management System, just to understand where your file has gone and where it's stuck. That is the first thing to do. And based on that, we evaluate whether it's eligible for a writ of mandamus. For example, I'll give you certain things that would stop you from filing a writ of mandamus, even if the processing time becomes extremely unreasonably long. Let's say that you submitted for a tourist visa. It was supposed to take 10 days to get it. On day 15, they ask you for you to update your file because they have a question with let's say your military service, for example, or they ask you for updates, or you provide updates by yourself. This is an excuse that IRCC can use to say, hey, yeah, it was supposed to take 10 days, but you know, we had to ask, this was an exceptional case, so we had to ask for this, and the client sent us that, we didn't ask for it. So these are all things that we had to analyze, and for this, we're outside the normal processing times. So that is something to really keep in mind. The writ of mandamus says that if your application goes beyond the average processing time, you might have an avenue. However, in such cases where continuous updates are being sent and received, then you're no longer part of the regular processing period, and that could hurt your chances for a mandamus. It could actually make it impossible for you to apply. So
if you get an update from Immigration Canada, they've been talking to you, then you won't have the chance to go for mandamus, is that right?
Generally, yes. But if the conversation... Go ahead.
Let me give you an example. I have a client, actually we did it together a couple of years ago. I'm sure we don't even maybe remember it now. For a Quebec investor program, which is closed, kind of closed now. But it was in 2018 that we did the file. We got the acceptance, and then the guy contributed to the 220,000 at that time. Still, 2025, the guy doesn't have the PR. Actually, he has been receiving correspondence from IRCC, submit this, submit that. So you think there's no chance for mandamus? Look,
it would really have to depend on what's the conversation that's being had with IRCC, because there's that case. That case, the updates were not repetitious. Okay. So yes, that unfortunately makes it very hard for our Quebec investor client to get it. However, I have a lot of cases. We actually had two recently. One of them, the officer was asking for a third time information about the person's military records. That case, that was from a couple of months ago. Now, they're asking for the exact same information. So that coming back in 6 months, asking for exactly the same thing, that doesn't hurt your chance of mandamus.
Okay.
But let's say you submitted military records here, and then they found something and they want to question you on that 5 months later, then your writ of mandamus application will probably have no chance of.
To wrap it up, I think if people are stuck with IRCC, they can see the chances if the response time has been not reasonable, they will have the chance to go and fight Immigration Canada over the time and say, hey, my application is so lengthy, and they might have a chance, and you can help them as a lawyer and represent their file, right?
Absolutely. If you're stuck with IRCC, come to see us. We can at least let you know where you are and what your rights and options can be.
Awesome. Thank you.